Welcome, ladies, but particularly gentlemen. You finally arrived at a channel where you're sincerely welcome and appreciated without ulterior motives. You'll notice I don't try to sell you men any products here, nor do I host any commercials. Instead, I get energized by providing free teaching on spiritual truths and self-mastery. And in this case, we are talking about life mastery over being sexually manipulated by women. And as of mid-2024, there's not a single video available today that is as comprehensive on the subject of falling victim to female sexual manipulation. If you're diligent enough to watch through to the end, as a student of life enhancement would, then I'm sure this video will be a great source of relationship motivation to you. If you're encouraged by the content, please be so kind as to subscribe to this channel and help others by sharing it. Incidentally, if you hit the like button, watch to the end, or comment, it sends a signal to YouTube through their electronic algorithm system. Then eventually the video is circulated to others interested in this subject matter. So thank you ahead of time for that. And in this video, I'll be giving men a message of hope, encouragement, and motivation for their love life. After spending many years in the martial arts community and having several Chinese-speaking mentors, I'll be giving you my perspective today on how gentlemen would act if they were from China, Singapore, Taiwan, or even Japan, and also how these cats would think and perform when it comes to avoiding manipulation by women. As you may know, the love and marriage community in Asia is far different from America. Over there, men are leaders and dominant figures in the love relationship. In the US, especially when it comes to relationships with a beautiful or sexy lady, men are almost more submissive than women these days. Before we get into details, I'd like to share a story that I heard while I was on a flight to Las Vegas. I heard about a commuter airline that was having trouble and it was about to crash. And there were 4 people on board, 3 men and a Boy Scout on this flight. But there were only 3 parachutes and the plane was in danger of crashing. The first man stepped forward and said, "I am a brain surgeon and I have 2 surgeries of the greatest importance scheduled tomorrow, or the patients will die." So he said goodbye and he took one of the 3 parachutes and jumped to safety. The second man stepped forward and he said, "I'm the smartest man in the world. I have over 30 inventions approved in both bioengineering and information technology. The world needs my intelligence and inventions, so I must take the second parachute to continue my work for mankind." Then, haphazardly, he took a parachute and supposedly jumped to safety. That left just 1 parachute and 2 people. The third man spoke to the remaining passenger, the Boy Scout, and he said, "Dear little Boy Scout, I'm a Buddhist master and monk. I've lived a long, healthy life, and I've taught and helped thousands of people to see the great truths of the universe. My son, I gladly give the last parachute to you." The small Boy Scout smiled and said, "Don't worry, Mr. Guru Buddhist Master. There are still 2 parachutes left. The smartest man in the world just jumped off the plane with my Boy Scout backpack." Huh? What? Just crickets? No flowers? No applause for me today? Before I begin, I'd like to share that even though this presentation is designed for men between the ages of 20 and 50, if you're a man that has experienced loss in love relationships, or your current life is far from what you'd like it to be, you're being manipulated regardless of your age, then I'd highly suggest you kick back for an hour or so and fully absorb the movie. Some of this content might be too mature for audiences younger than age 18, however, so keep that in mind. The goal here today is to upgrade your relationships from being just a man controlled by the beauty and body of a woman to a man that's a leader of a sexually healthy relationship. We will also discuss a man taking control of the dating or marriage relationship, but this discussion does not give advice on being a controlling type of man. Okay, so there's a clear distinction between this controlling man over a woman and a man being in control as a leader. The problem I've seen in the past is very beautiful women without all the baggage, and I don't want to go into what baggage is, may become too bossy and dominant in a relationship because men are mesmerized by the sweet voice, the beautiful face, and the awesome body. What we're also talking about today is being in a relationship with a beautiful, slender, sexy, and intelligent woman, not a run-of-the-mill gal with a suitcase filled with emotional baggage and other things. We will also discuss key boundaries and guidelines to avoid these classy, sexy ladies taking the driver's seat in a relationship. What do I mean by sexy, or what do I mean by classy? Well, first of all, she's not just another pretty face with a good job. Rather, she is intelligent, kind of manipulative. She's highly educated, advanced in her career, not broke or desperate for sex. She maintains a nice figure, attractive face, and she's usually residing in a city or urban area. So that's what I mean by classy, sophisticated, sexy. And this is more of an elite woman, okay? She keeps tight control over body, looks, career. If she joined a dating app, for example, it would take her 20 years to go through all the admirers and dating requests. So that's kind of what we're talking about. So if your goal is relationship with just cute girls that have a basic 9 to 5, always struggling financially, or some little hottie with moderate intelligence and a drinking problem, this video wouldn't be for you. As a first step, you must take a very deep introspective look into who you are as a man and as a man pursuing women in a dating environment, okay? You have to look at yourself both internally and externally. You have to be very honest with yourself and non-hypocritical in this endeavor. For example, you can't be a beer belly, wino, druggie, or an overweight, lazy, and dull-minded man while expecting to be in control of a relationship with someone on the opposite side of that spectrum, okay? It just doesn't work that way. If your goal is to get a sexy and valuable woman, you must be a valuable man, and that means you're valuing who you are as the male species and not getting walked all over because of a woman's beauty. You may be saying, what makes this guy John an expert on getting attractive, classy women and avoiding manipulation by them? I mean, look at this guy. I'm not very impressed at all. Who does he think he is trying to give me advice on love and dating? Well, may I answer that impolite remark by saying I'm probably older than most men viewing this message, but after over 30 years as an adult, friends, family, followers, and others continue to compliment me on my youthful appearance, level of stamina, gentleman-like personality, and occasionally I'm complimented as being a man that's sexy. Obviously, I haven't always looked like this, eye wrinkles and all that, but in my 20s through 40s, let's say, I was extremely athletic and I had my fair share of relationships with attractive girls. Some of them were models from Las Vegas, but the point is not to brag here, but simply that I have been focused on mind through education and trial and error, and I've been focused on my body in improving my physique since I was a youth. It's been a lifelong endeavor in self-actualization and fitness, and I've never given up, even to the present day. Lastly, I've mastered the male-female relationship issue, and it took a long time to figure this out, and will never abdicate control over any sexy woman in any relationship, no matter how hot she is, in any future endeavor. Although I've had more gorgeous fiancés than the average man, hey, listen, the truth is I've made huge mistakes and errors along the way, and I've been victim to major manipulation, both financially and by other means, which obviously caused many relationship breakups, and I've therefore taken those learnings and injected them into portions of this message for you. So I'm speaking partially from experience, but also from being well read on the subject of relationships, regarding love and the psychology connected to success behind all of this. Lastly, you'll be hearing the voices from famous relationship experts, authors, counselors, and even psychologists during this program if you listen carefully. And speaking of that first step of introspection that I had mentioned earlier, I'd like for you to pause a moment and think deeply about your life and your future relationship goals. While you are thinking, I'd highly suggest that you ponder about the things you are currently doing that are stupid and unhealthy for you as a man and a leader in a love relationship. Particularly those things that have blocked you from getting a perfect partner in the past and have kept you in relationships with manipulators. Okay, you're pondering this. You're thinking about this on the edge of your bed. A few topics to consider would include your problems or usage of drugs, alcohol, lies, deception, and other stupid practices like jerking off to porn. This introspective exercise is a serious undertaking that you should do in private, like I had mentioned, without hesitation. So you need to go do that before you watch the rest of this. For example, go into a quiet bedroom and really ponder this issue for 15 minutes. What am I doing wrong? Oh, that's why she manipulated and dropped me like a hot potato. What did I do wrong with this relationship? Oh, I acted like Mr. Nice Guy, giving her gifts all the time. You see, like that, my friend. When you discover your past mistakes and times that you've made these big mistakes or fallen victim to sex and beauty, then you must also set a goal to improve any habits that have been keeping you from victory in being a leader and someone that's not being controlled. And I'm going to help you with that on this presentation. But this entire endeavor takes great responsibility. And if you have, and you really have to be dead set on realizing this goal, success in this goal. Let's put it that way. This is not a game, but the great side effect of this endeavor is that this will bring great meaning to your life. And if you succeed, no girl, woman, lady, no matter how hot her body is or her face is, will never take you on a suicidal ride off the dating cliff ever again. Please allow me to explain a few of my past failures and how I've overcome being disrespected by the hot women of my past. This includes times when I've been verbally disrespected, financially manipulated, cheated on, lied to, and more. The first area to discuss is when you have been manipulated through lies and deceit. Most men will say how relationships started out so sweet and loving, but after the first couple months, let's say the first several times in the bedroom, the woman began displaying deceit and outright lies on a regular basis. In other words, you got your dick wet, but now you're paying dearly for that privilege. This has not only happened to me, but many men that I've known throughout the years, and they'll say she was great at first, but now she deceives me all the time. Now, a perceptive guy that's not controlled by a sexy woman with awesome curves will see this coming and avoid it. But most men think with their downstairs head instead of their upstairs head. The point is that if a classy woman is untruthful to you, it is usually not a direct lie. Okay, are you listening? Rather, it's manipulative avoidance to say the truth or act in a truthful manner. Okay, you have to have your radar up, gentlemen, and be a super intuitive man to pick up on this stuff without a focus on sex in order to perceive what's going on here. Sexy women might not say the truth, but they will always show you the truth. So what am I saying? Every woman that you've been with that has hurt you, used you, cheated on you, or stolen from you, showed you it was coming with several red flags. Only your focus on sex blinded you from reality. Okay? From day one, you chose to ignore the flags that screamed you would soon be a victim. For example, when a sexual manipulator meets a man, they'll start to show the red flags indirectly. She might show it in how she dresses provocatively, always showing a lot of skin in public. She might show it with her sexual behavior. For example, it's very easy to get her into bed, and you notice she is very liberal and unrestrained sexually. This might be a turn on to an unsuspecting fool at first, but it's a sign you will just be another notch in her belt. Also, she might show you in terms of how she talks, always mentioning something sexual or a new sexual exploit or fantasy she'd like you to be part of. Also, like some men, she might show you her impending manipulation of you or show you the red flags by, like I said, a lot of men do this, mentioning something sexual on a regular basis or a new sexual fantasy that she would like you to be part of. Okay, this red flag may also come up when she's talking about her ex did this or her ex did that in bed with her and she loved or hated it. Total red flag, guys. Additionally, her mouth might always downgrade other men that she's been with. What makes her not want to do this against you someday, I say, okay? Always making you feel special, right? She's downgrading this other guy, making you feel special at first. I'll grant you that. But this is a ploy. For example, she might cover up her own greed and desire to financially exploit you, okay, by saying how her ex was so cheap and you are not. She might also say that this guy was so toxic, this guy was a narcissist, a controlling man, or whatever. Again, it's a ploy. In psychologists, this is called projection, which is when the darkness inside someone's heart comes out by projecting it on others, okay? Or saying that others are guilty of the evil within their own heart. I did an entire video on the subject if you'd like to look in my library for a show entitled The Darkness Within. Or she might say, this guy was so bad to me, but I will also confess that deep down inside, I'm still in love with him, even though it's certain that we'll never get back together. Where does this leave you, my friend, as a second or third place choice? Even if she claims she loves you, this is a huge flag and one that you must run in the opposite direction of when your woman confesses her love still for a man that she could not get along with well in the past, because you never know. As soon as there's a little conflict with you, and there will be, she can go running back to this guy that supposedly she hates, but she loves at the same time. If you are a family-oriented man, you can be manipulated in this area as well. She might show you that because she's in her mid to late 30s and she's never had kids, she's been on birth control for years. Indirectly, she's showing you that kids are not part of her selfish life goals. She'll use that excuse. For example, she'll use the excuse that she's always been waiting for the right man to start a family with. But it's just a deception again. It's a ploy to hook you in and make you wait for something that just may never happen. On the other hand, she might already be a parent, but a bad one. Her career, vices, and friends take priority over the kids. Those little ones are perpetually in daycare while she's out on the town with you or her other group of followers. This may lead to another manipulation. Listen, she might be looking for a sugar daddy to pay the expenses for her kids and their upbringing. All the while you take backseat in the relationship and end up being her bedboy at night and nanny during all the other times. Listen, if these are the types of red flags that you're seeing, although she doesn't tell you direct lies, it's manipulation, and in this case, manipulation to make you a stepdad, okay, and the financier of her lifestyle, while she pursues her career, her friends, and leaves you at home with those kids. Trust me, you will never save the day for her, and both her and those kids will end up disrespecting you in the end. And I'm speaking from experience here also. Here's the point. These sexy manipulators are very clever. They know how to pick the man. It's not by chance, it's by design. Okay? A man that allows them to get away with the most nonsense possible, whether that's through turning you into a financial resource for her future, or keeping you as one of a couple guys on the leash, or maybe targeting you to be abused in other ways, such as being the victim of her insults and sarcastic rudeness. We'll be talking about that today also. So if a woman does not have these many red flags, and a few of them I've discussed, what happens is that they will attract a good man and a strong type of leader, someone with very clear boundaries. As an example of a boundary, here's one. You must not allow any woman that you are with to either talk about her past sexual experiences or have any type of male friends. Okay, that's a clear-cut boundary. Okay, another red flag regarding other men is that she has a very active social media presence. Okay, whether that's TikTok, IG, Twitter, Facebook, or whatever. The main point is that if you tolerate her doing whatever the hell she wants with social media or male friends, then you're in for a relationship disaster that will end up in either a breakup, or long-term nightmare. You see, women filled with these red flags will only select a man who's filled with low self-esteem. And you might be thinking, oh, I have high self-esteem. Listen on. She will deliberately pick the men that are mesmerized by her beauty and the ones that do not know how to exert clear-cut boundaries in the relationship. Always flaunting sexual gifts is what these women will do, then follow it up with using the man for her personal interests. These are the guys that see the hot body, the pretty face, but don't want to lose the girl by being a strong leader and setting up some rules. Defining boundaries that are relationship destroyers, I might add. Either define your boundaries from the get-go, gentlemen, or stay a simp and never become a stud. So, female manipulators will select the men that display this clear type of low self-esteem. No boundaries. The men that moan and complain, and the men that throw money around just to get laid. You might be asking yourself, how the hell am I displaying low self-esteem in the beginning of a relationship? I mean, we've already slept with each other, and that shows I have some confidence, right? Oh, really? Does that show you have self-confidence? I don't think so. That may show you know how to have sex and that you're a horny bastard, but it does not show that you are a leader in a relationship. Sorry to be so blunt, but we're talking about reality here. This is how she knows you have self-esteem and are a good victim for exploitation and manipulation. First, as mentioned before, they will spot you because your focus is on mentioning how beautiful she is, her sexiness, her body parts, or her flesh in general. In other words, you place a big L on your forehead by being super impressed with her beauty. This gives her power over you. She thinks another dick that will do almost anything to keep getting laid, even if it means my spending his money, him being number 2 or 3 on my list of lovers, or letting me sarcastically insult him like my personal slave. They're very clever. Some of the most beautiful girls in your town, on the flip side of this coin, let me say, they'll get in line and they'll take numbers for that one single man that may not be super good looking, but he keeps a great control over his body and his smart, intuitive mind. And at the same time, they are not the kind of men that are impressed by beauty and attractiveness. They might be impressed internally in their thought life, but they don't say it. Okay, they don't express that feeling. The moment a man directly or indirectly shows it, they lose at this game. I know that may sound strange at first glance, but again, you got to listen on to the full content of this message. This isn't the type of video that you watch 8 or 10 minutes and fast forward to the end conclusion. But the pretty ladies of this world, the ones with the awesome curves, will almost certainly become disrespectful and push boundaries with a man who is in awe of her beauty. This is because she sees her beauty as a power play. For the younger guys viewing this, if you don't have a lot of experience with very beautiful women and you fall victim to her appearance, then they smell that insecurity on you very quickly. And they learn they can push your boundaries, and they learn they can disrespect you, cheat on you, financially get funding from you, or use you to pursue her own selfish life goals or desires, right? So she smells that insecurity on you, young man. She will be thinking that you are not going anywhere, okay, or that you're not going to break up with her no matter what she does, because she realizes you can't do any better when it comes to finding a pretty lady that will sleep with you. On the opposite side of that equation, even if a woman is gorgeous and has great income, maybe even a leader in her career, but at the same time knows her lover is not glued to the relationship because of her beauty or sex, and that you're confident enough, she knows that you're also confident enough to move on if she begins any manipulative practices, then she quickly learns to respect you, okay? Because she realizes you bring something more to the relationship than just another hot dick, okay, that is stuck on her looks and willingness to sleep with her. The tables are turned when she sees you as an attractive, high-value gentleman that has great control over his physique, career, checkbook, and more. The problem is that 90% of all men do not have these qualities. Okay, for example, they might be physically strong, but a pussycat when it comes to making decisions in the relationship. Or they might be wealthy with a good career, but they'll take a back seat when a woman starts to get bossy. Okay? These are the men that, despite their good looks, and this might be you also, or your financial status, you're living a low self-esteem life, okay, in order to sleep with a beautiful woman. I can't blame you, but we're trying to correct that. We're trying to reverse that here, okay? And after you fight with her, and there will be many little fights, after every disrespectful word or action toward you, she knows that she can simply use her beauty or her body to get you back on her good side. Even find you running back to apologize for being a man. Okay, this is so repulsive to see men that let their women metaphorically castrate them in order to have a sexy body next to them at night. It's just not worth it, okay? Getting laid is great, but it's not paradise, okay? Wake up. So, for the third time, if you don't set these boundaries I'm talking about, it sends a clear signal that you have low self-worth and can be manipulated for money, sex, or just to have a puppy dog that she can play with and sarcastically insult. How this can be overcome is simple, even if it means losing the girl and going dry for a year or more until you can find a high-quality woman. For example, she's said or done something that you realize is clearly disrespectful, but instead of pointing it out and not allowing it, you want to keep the peace, which of course means you pay the price of ongoing disrespect. This means that when you are sarcastically spoken down to, manipulated in any way, or deceived, you gotta call her on the carpet for it immediately. Clearly state that what you're noticing and that you won't tolerate it, okay? Be strong and grow a pair, guys, even if it means losing the girl, because if not, you will eventually be so manipulated that it will suck the life force out of you. But I'm not saying you scream and shout at her when she does something wrong, okay? Because that cries out that you are a big, fat wussy and mama's boy. That's definitely not the picture I'm talking about here. You never need to push a woman into a corner to make her understand your point, because the point will be obvious unless she's an idiot and can't function outside of an institution. So you don't need to repeatedly rant of any disapproval, okay? Be a gangster. Mention it once. What I'm advising that you do, however, is let it be known that this behavior is something you're uncomfortable with, and make it clear that if she continues to break that boundary after you've warned her, then you will remove yourself permanently from the relationship, okay? Without a doubt, you make this very clear that you'll walk. This is done in a calm, cool, and confident manner, okay? Not raising your voice, because if it is said in a slow, low tone, it'll have much stronger impact. Look at the 70s movie Godfather Part 1 and how Marlon Brando voiced his disapproval with others, and you'll get the idea of what I'm talking about here. You see, if she learns that when she crosses your boundaries that you'll withdraw, maybe break up, tell her that she's pushing the wrong buttons, and clearly and succinctly share your disapproval that she has crossed those boundaries, then she'll start to get in line. Either that or she'll walk away, which is better for you anyway. The mistake a lot of men do is when a woman crosses their boundaries, maybe she's cheated on them, maybe she's disrespecting, rude, sarcastic, or constantly making excuses that she needs you to pay for this or that. Most pussy wimp simps will not define their boundaries or rules. Instead, they'll reward that entitled behavior. For example, they might beg her to stay, apologize for being so strict, or he might go out and buy her some jewelry as a kiss and make up kind of gift. In essence, most men puss out and teach that they are simps to be controlled. These attractive female manipulators may even be thinking, this is great. I didn't know this would be so easy. I can lie and cheat on him, and he'll still pay my bills. Or I can disrespect him and lie about where I'm going at night, and he still shows at my work. He still shows up at my job site to apologize and say, oh, baby, I'm sorry. I never knew this was so easy, they're thinking, right? This is tragic, but common all too often when men get starstruck by a girl's beauty and sexual gifts, okay? All it leads to is even more of this same abuse, each time getting worse and further making you look like an idiot. The key is to use your intellect and finesse to spot these red flags coming, okay, in ways that keep the dialogue going, okay, with that beautiful girl without making your intentions certain, okay? We're talking about the beginning stages of a relationship here, okay? And if a girl has abused you, manipulated you a little bit, when you're turning these tables, don't make your intention certain, okay, that your goal is to enjoy a romantic, love, whatever, sexual relationship. Instead, make your intentions more of a professional relationship, one that may involve that, but one that's not filled with sexual innuendos or suggestions of intimacy. Okay, for example, pretend you don't even know what sex is. Are you capable of doing that, you horny bastards out there? So you need to have a very intuitive nature and begin spotting persistent issues that are keeping you on her leash. As an obedient puppy that gets a sex reward if he's a good boy. But your intuition has to also see these major flaws in yourself that allow this to happen. Okay, it's two-sided. You're not just pointing the finger at her and saying, oh, she's doing this or doing that to me. You got to point the finger at yourself and say, I allowed this to happen. She did that, and I didn't call her on the rug about it again. But your intuition has to see these major flaws in yourself that allow these things to happen because you had never set up the right boundaries or guidelines from the beginning. If you are in a manipulative relationship now, all of this can be turned around in your favor. If not, in your fruitless attempt to keep this woman happy by allowing her to walk all over you, the result is that you've already lost her and she's going to keep control over you in more and more disrespectful ways. I recently met a lady from China, of all places, that would always talk about how she liked to go back to her country, the motherland, okay, twice annually to visit family and friends. It's almost as if she kept pushing this in my face as a warning of how she's going to be bossy about international travel regularly in the future. I shared with her on a couple of occasions that I didn't have an international passport and that Americans are being warned that travel to many Asian countries can be very dangerous right now, and that Americans are being targeted for kidnapping and scams of all type, I was telling her. Her reply was always, I see Americans all the time traveling to my country. Everyone is safe and nothing ever happens. I was thinking to myself, yeah, right. I don't think so. But because she was so pretty, I just held my tongue, okay, and I kept this in mind. On the third time she mentioned this, which was about 3 weeks into this new relationship, I also said that if I was in a serious relationship with a lovely lady, I would not want them to be traveling to another country alone. I had no way of knowing, especially being that I didn't have an international passport to travel with, I'd have no way of knowing if she had other male friends, boyfriends, or past flings that might turn into a future sexual encounter while she was traveling. Okay? This is where things began to unravel. She raised her voice and said, well, I go twice a year and no one's going to tell me otherwise. If this is something that bothers you, then we won't be right for each other. I'm thinking to myself, wow, what brought this on? My response was to just relax, smile, and say, thank you for the very nice few weeks. But I agree that we're not right for each other. We were finishing up dinner, so I paid for the bill and I left her there to think about her rudeness toward me. This took a lot of guts, okay? Because let me tell you, this was a beautiful Asian girl with all the right dimensions, if you know what I mean. But I knew that if I didn't walk away now, things would only get worse later on. You see, my intuition was telling me that her beauty, that this beauty in front of me was used to always getting her way in the past with men, okay? And she was used to making the rules, and I didn't want to be part of her train of past fools. So I moved on very quickly because I've been played many times in the past by women like this, and I've come to the point where I don't care if I lose the effing girl, okay? Because I have too much respect for myself to become a slave of another pretty girl. We, not she, will make relationship rules and guidelines together instead of you falling victim to another bossy beauty. Now, I'm not saying don't forgive people, but what I am saying is to have your boundaries and make sure there are repercussions for crossing those boundaries or standards. For example, never ever reward a pretty face for being disrespectful or rude to you. Either clearly define your boundaries from the start, okay, like I did in this example with international travel, or pay the price later with a broken heart and another broken relationship. All you have left over is another empty bed and the 10,000th night of being alone. But it doesn't have to be that way. You have to clearly define these guidelines, these boundaries, these parameters from the get-go to avoid complications later. Did I say that 9 or 10 times now? Obviously, most men have sexual needs and a short-term focus on getting laid. So they allow women to do this time and time again. I'm saying it's much better to keep your pride than to get your rocks off in bed regularly. Here's something to consider, which is related to this topic of not placing sex as a priority to your manhood. Okay, take a serious look at the topic of seed retention. Okay, I don't have time to discuss the entire subject now, but if you're a student of wanting to have better relationships with attractive and classy women, then you'll be well advised to study this topic. YouTube has a plethora of videos on this subject, and that will help you. That'll give you a start. Okay, just to give you a little teaser, here are a few benefits of keeping your banana in your pants. And also, this means not jerking off to porn, okay? This is called semen retention as well. And the major benefits are listed as an increased level of confidence and self-control, better memory, concentration, and overall intelligence. I heard one commentator say that women can smell it on you and perceive it, and it will make them more curious as to why you are so strong compared to all the other weak guys that are begging them to go into the bedroom. Okay? It will be a breath of fresh air for her. And if you're fortunate enough to endure the process, and it's not easy, let me tell you, when you're around these hotties, but if you can endure this, it might be the key that seals a long-term relationship with a beautiful woman. Who doesn't want that? Especially one that's not a manipulator. You will never play the fool when it comes to being controlled by sex ever again, especially after you've been practicing this for a few months. So remember, keep seed retention on the forefront of your mind moving forward, especially if you're not currently in a relationship. So once you've met someone and there appears to be mutual interest, I have some more advice. In the beginning stages of the relationship, maybe even the first few dates, if you're too nice, too quickly, you will lose at this game, okay? Even with your muscled body and your big fat wallet, okay? Because intelligent, sexy women see this as a weakness, okay? For example, Mr. Nice Guys, you just met someone or you're pursuing a coworker and you went on your first luncheon with them. You bring flowers to this meeting, maybe some other little gift like jewelry, and spend much of the date looking stricken by her beauty and constantly complimenting everything about her. Trust me, and I'm speaking through experience again, and the advice of many matchmaking experts, if you do this Mr. Nice Guy nonsense too soon, she'll run from you as fast as her cute little feet will carry her. Okay, acting like that comes across as totally untruthful and desperate. Sexy, discerning women will read right through your act. They'll move on very quickly to the next candidate. If by chance your Mr. Nice Guy routine works out and you get her in the bed, guess what? You can expect to be manipulated by her regularly, Mr. Nice Guy. Some idiot just said, that's the kind of manipulation I wouldn't mind at all. I'll let a woman sexually exploit me all day and all night, if you know what I mean. You might say that at first, my friend, but when she's walking out the door handing you the key to the new home you just bought together, you'll remember this conversation, okay? You'll either have to buy her out or sell the home right away and split the difference. All the while, she's off manipulating another Mr. Nice Guy loser like you for sex and more. Listen, sex can be the third or fourth item on your list of relationship priorities, okay? but not the first. Okay, I'd like to be so bold as to say your main priority needs to be a leader in your career and extremely financially stable. Then we can take it from there. So to avoid manipulation, you are seriously focused on your career, or maybe some impressive hobby like being a Kung Fu Shaolin master or small aircraft pilot. One key, however, is that you don't chase her too much. This is part of the don't be a super Mr. Nice Guy conversation, okay? You can show interest and, make it clear you want to see her, but don't always text. Come on. Show some self-respect. Don't always call. And don't always answer a text message 2 seconds after you received it, okay? Or act like she's the greatest thing since the discovery of the wheel, because she's not, okay? So for the 11th time, I'm saying this comes across as being a desperate guy, someone that's lonely and weak. Classy, sexy, confident, career women want a strong man physically, but more importantly, they want a man with outstanding mental strength, intelligence, and confidence. And that doesn't necessarily mean being a little Mr. Nice Guy all the time. Okay? So you have to learn to ignore her occasionally and not jump to her beckoning call like some knight in shining armor. Again, you'll never save her anyway. Be confident and a classy gangster, I say. Okay, just like Godfather Part 1 that I mentioned earlier. Walk slow, talk slow, say few words, and when you talk, speak with profound meaning, not small talk, preferably in a low tone of voice. Also keep in mind that confidence is a far cry from dominance or arrogance. Even though some women claim they want an alpha man, but it's actually the alpha, or better yet, the sigma male that gets the slender model with the awesome curves, because he's the one that does it quietly without saying he's the top dog and without being manipulated by beauty, sex, intelligence, whatever list of attributes or assets she has. So even if a woman claims that she wants an alpha or sigma male, it's the hotties with the beautiful body and the gorgeous face that are going to come running to the man that displays it by being the top dog in his career or the absolute best pilot in his hobby group, okay? Instead, he calmly demonstrates his confidence and dominance. For example, he catches the winning pass or hammers the grand slam homer while the crowd cheers and he quietly walks off the field. Now that's what I'm talking about. So now let's touch on 3 very detrimental character flaws that you must avoid at all costs in order to be certain that you will not be manipulated in any current or future love relationships. These mistakes all shout you are foolish and open game to being controlled and manipulated for money, sex, and more. Here's the first one. You use speakerphones all the time and want others to hear your voice and your supposedly important conversations. This is such a turnoff, I tell you. Additionally, you are stuck to that damn cell phone nonstop from morning until night, almost as if it was your lover. This screams that you're lonely, that you need validation, and that you're insecure. No sexy or classy woman wants an electronic nerd around, guys. Okay, someone that's glued to an electronic device? She wants a man focused on her, protecting her in the room, or let's say a hike that you're going on. Okay, she wants a guy with his attention focused on the situation at hand, not some stupid electronic device, okay? She also wants a man that's focused on his career, but not distracted like a little electronic nerd. This type of electronically addicted man is a perfect target for sarcasm, manipulation, and disrespect. Another mistake is you buy a sports car or a new truck and you're making huge payments for it. You pretend that it's your own, but you know that the bank is the true owner. This also screams that you're very insecure and that you'll do almost anything to gain acceptance by others. This means you are an easy financial target to be taken advantage of. Are you listening? Additionally, you carry a very high unpaid balance on your credit cards. Smart, clever women can see right through this in just a few weeks. They'll notice you never use cash when you're paying for things. These manipulators might think, well, because he always uses credit cards, maybe I can start asking him to buy expensive clothing, jewelry, or items for my house as a gift. And then maybe as an afterthought, I'll let him sleep with me this weekend. She might be thinking that, and it's very possible, I'd like to add, okay? This is not all theoretical stuff. This comes from real life, real world scenarios. And I'm just repeating that back out to you for you to learn from, gentlemen. Another foolish act is you like to put your life story online. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, whatever, and have a constant need for validation, just like I had mentioned before with the speakerphone. Constant need for that validation. Maybe this is because you never got the right kind of love or encouragement as a child, but a tricky lady can see you need this type of attention, okay? They'll give it to you so that they can manipulate you later on. For example, she might tell you how sexy you are and what a great body you have. But after sleeping with her, the bossiness, sarcasm, and manipulation begins to rear its ugly head again. Now listen to this section because, as I mentioned before, we're going to review the boundaries that you need to put in place, okay, from the very start so that you will not appear to be a simp or what some might call become someone that's pussy whipped. Okay, for example, some women are so egotistical that they don't even need to raise one little finger to find a man, particularly if they have an awesome figure and a pretty face. If they join an online dating app, for example, they can never keep up with the amount of offers that they'll receive, especially if they are a so-called hottie or beauty, okay? They'll never be able to keep up. Sadly, the man becomes hooked after just a couple dates. Eventually, these are the men that begin to follow the orders, follow the mandates of these sexy girls, almost like slaves, in hope for ongoing sex. My experience has been that 95% of beautiful women I've ever known or have been acquainted with have used their beauty to control men both emotionally and mentally. Even if you have a Christian wife or a dedicated Jewish, Muslim, Catholic wife or whatever, don't believe for 1 minute that she has not used her beauty and sexiness to control you. Now, if she's not beautiful and kind of dumpy and a little ugly, then I guess you won't be victim to that. At this stage in my life, however, I not only find men that are subject to this manipulation, let's say, I find that to be so nauseating. Oh, okay, to see these men around me, to get controlled by these women, it's just pathetic. And they're almost not even a man, in my opinion. Listen, the reason behind her inflated ego is you, okay? And your desperation to be with her beauty and her sexiness. You're the problem, not her. Let me say that in a slightly different way. The key problem is that you end up putting her on a pedestal and you validate her as you complicate things by complimenting her profusely for no good reason other than her being so beautiful and you wanting to get her into the bed. I've personally been victim to this a time or two in my life until I learned my lesson. The point is, men, you must never worship her like a goddess of beauty. Because when she understands that she is being valued and praised for her beauty or bedroom abilities, then her ego will become enlarged, okay? As you become the simp, then she will use you like a slave, the same way she uses her other worshipers. So if you don't want to end up her obedient puppy, you must humble her in a way. This means at times making yourself scarce and not being available, like I mentioned before, the moment she tries to contact you. You see, most beautiful, shapely, and sexy ladies suffer from this inflated ego situation. Okay, it's a problem, just the same way as most men suffer from that same inflated ego if they are tall, handsome, well-built, or healthy. Or wealthy rather. So one way of getting the upper hand and begin deflating her ego is to not place sex as a priority for the 37th time. Okay? That means even if your perverted self wants it 3 times a day, you cannot make this a priority in your communications or actions with a woman, okay? Or she will always be in control of the relationship, always dangling the talisman of sex over you. Okay, as an example, never beg to get her in bed with you, okay? This is a key mistake many men make. Come on, baby, let's do it tonight. Oh, let's go home and make love after this delicious dinner. What a wonderful way to end the evening. Or any number of sexual innuendos. Oh, baby, your chest looks so hot tonight. I can't wait to take off that blouse and blah, blah, blah. Don't do that. Never beg to get her in bed with you. This is a key mistake many men make, and they later pay the price of being the brunt of sarcasm, rudeness, deception, and just being an overall puppy dog slave. You may get laid, okay? You may get your rocks off. But because you always tried to get in her pants, she'll begin to get turned off at the same time. She will think of herself as a dominant force and you as a desperate man for sex, thereby humiliating you and putting you in the ridiculous passenger seat of the relationship. My suggestion is that you stay calm and be a cool cat, not needy for the wet stuff. Use your personality and your charisma to gravitate her toward knowing you more and eventually wanting you in a physical way as icing on the cake instead of you pushing toward that end. Let her push you into bed. Then maybe you'll be in control for once. For most men, they're incapable of this, however. And therefore, a pussy-whipped simp is what they become in every relationship, which usually, if not always, ends in a breakup. Are you listening, men? If you have the mental strength to overcome this inherent flaw, however, and when you stay cold in expressing your sexual desires, she will perceive you as a strong man with a stronger persona, someone who's not desperate to sleep with her, someone that could care less about her body or sexiness. This will not only deflate her ego, but will also make her submit to you moving forward instead of the other way around. It's additionally important to somewhat destroy her ego in the area of displaying hypergamy. Look it up. the word hypergamy. It's a centuries-old practice of women marrying into a category of men that are above them in social status and financial well-being. Okay, it was originated in both China and particularly Asia, and generally speaking, this means partnering up with someone that is more elite than yourself in a higher caste level. This actually applies to modern times in a big way. This is why you sometimes see out of shape and unattractive men with gorgeous girls on their arm. Okay, they're usually doctors. Okay, if you look into it, it's usually a financial reason. Lawyers, maybe wealthy corporate executives, they have the cash, but they also have the brains and self-control to not let their confidence or character become destroyed or manipulated by a pretty lady. Okay, so these beauties, therefore, will lust after men with high status in both intelligence and wealth. However, the moment she notices that you are somehow below her level and constantly complimenting her on her beauty and sexiness, well, then she may quickly become bossy and manipulative. And that's, of course, what we're trying to destroy here today. She'll begin playing emotional games with you, let's say, and creating drama for no apparent reason, only to see you come begging for forgiveness for the 37,000th time, but you must show her that you are the man. My experience has also been that entitled beauties like this seem to have an inherent desire to constantly use sarcasm to belittle the men around them. They think this is innocent, and they try to draw others into this so-called witty banter. Most fools, particularly men that want to sleep with these women, will play the game, all the while permitting themselves to be on the receiving end of these sarcastic insults that are being exchanged. Pathetic. As I mentioned before, stop being Mr. Nice Guy all the time. It's okay to be polite and a gentleman, but when you are readily available to always serve and give to a woman, you're just like a man, like the man we mentioned that is sexually desperate. You become a simp and a slave, as in the example I mentioned about banter and sarcasm. Never ever allow your woman to go in the direction, that type of sarcastic, belittling direction with you. Plain and simple, you tell them from the start that this relationship will be a respectful one, and that being on the brunt end of sarcastic jokes is not your idea, okay? Not your definition of respect. In all honesty, the dating world is no place for Mr. Nice Guy, even if you are a gentleman of sorts. You have no other option than to be determined, independent, and strong. This means you are strong enough to give her a reality check when she gets egotistical, sarcastic, rude, or any number of topics that we've discussed here today. People often say that nice guys always finish last. Well, when it comes to hot women, this is a very true statement. When we're talking about, switching gears, your mother or your grandmother, then yes, be super nice, okay? Always be available to them within reason. Be a loving son or grandson. But you might have a lovable heart and you like to do things for your lady to keep her happy. But guess what happens if this is commonplace in the relationship? The end result is that all your niceness leads her to become sarcastic, impolite, and manipulative. That's right. Okay, we're not talking about angels here. We're talking about clever, sexy, sophisticated women that know how to manipulate men for all intents and purposes. You have no other option than to be determined, independent, and strong. This means you're strong enough to give her a reality check when she gets impolite, rude, sarcastic, starts talking down to you. Learn how to say no and learn how to say stop when necessary. And be a little colder, withdrawn for a while if she does not comply. Okay, don't disappear, but don't come running at the drop of the hat either. This will deflate her ego more than anything else. Take a moment to truly observe the pussy-whipped men around you that have pretty women on their arms, okay? Maybe even the strong guys that have trophy wives. Most of them are being manipulated by their women, bossed around, and controlled for the chance to have sex with them. These men become an addendum or a side note, okay? If they're not in a marriage or living together situation, they have become emotionally weakened by a woman's sexiness and her need for validation. You therefore end up being ignored by these spoiled little brats in time. So, what am I saying? Stop behaving like a desperate child, a horny little boy, let's say, and show her what you are made of, okay, without being a jerk in the process. Okay, this is all about you being respectful as well. Be strong, be polite, but stand your ground and keep sex as an afterthought instead of your main train of thought. The problem is most men are pussy-whipped simps, and they give these girls what they want, like ongoing social media validation, or constantly saying, I love you, for no true reason. Men, it's time to regain your dignity and grow a pair of monster-sized ones. Also, never stalk a woman to validate her and constantly comment on her beautiful pictures, sending little notes like, you look so beautiful in this picture by the ocean, whatever it might be. Don't do that, guys. Don't constantly validate these women, and don't chase them on social media. Speaking of social media, this is a major pet peeve for hundreds of thousands of men, but I'll mention it because everybody else is a pussy too. Let's briefly touch on this boundary about social media, particularly if you want to stand strong in the game of love. Most men won't do this, okay, because they fear they'll lose the girl. But I say if you don't do it, you'll pay the price later. It's better to lose the girl now than end up losing tens of thousands of dollars in a divorce later on. Here's the point. The key boundary is that you must not tolerate her having any type of male friends, man friends, okay? There's no exception to this rule, especially if you are starting to get serious with her. Additionally, if you're well into the relationship and you ask her to delete her IG, her Facebook, or any social media account, okay, because you tell her, well, we're together now, baby, you don't need this, and she refuses, listen carefully, take off and don't look back. That's right, take off and don't look back, because if you don't, the sting will be much worse later on. Are you listening? Last year, I was dating a girl for a few weeks, and I noticed this issue kept popping up. She was glued to her phone and seemed to have several people, probably men, that she was staying in touch with, constantly texting these people. One evening, while we were out, I got a little tired of it, and I asked her to unlock her phone and let me just see it for a moment. She said, why? Don't you trust me? I said, I just wanted to check her pictures and take a picture of us together. And, she made up some excuse. She said, oh, there's so many ugly pictures of me on the phone. I would never want you to see them. Now, I wanted this relationship to work out, but I could see I might face a problem with her cheating later on. Okay, and let me add, this was a very attractive girl that might get away with it. So what did I do? Again, I smiled and I said, well, if you won't do a simple thing like that for me, then I'm sure you're hiding more than just ugly pictures. She got irritated with me, so I finished the date, I paid for the meal, and I let her think about her idiocy while she was at an empty table in a fancy restaurant. Incidentally, when you confront a woman about other men and she gets angry, okay, this is widely taught in the area of psychology. Whether it's a woman or a man, when you confront them about something and they get angry, in this case, you're confronting a girl about potential other men. She gets angry, raises her voice, becomes elusive and unkind. This is a guaranteed sign that you're not the only doggy on her leash. Listen, guys, plain and simple, you want to be in a relationship with a woman that will do almost anything for you. If you ask her to grow her hair long, she does it. Ask her to cancel her Facebook account, no problem. Ask her to change her phone number, she might object, but she does it, okay? What she actually says is, sure, baby, anything for you because I love you. That's what you want to hear. That's the type of relationship you want to be in, instead of an elusive, unkind, impolite relationship where you're getting bossed around, okay? If her response is not, sure, baby, anything for you, I love you, or something along those lines, if her responses are different, then hit the road. Okay, hit the road, Jack, or you will end up her servant and her next victim. This may have been mentioned before, like most of these other subjects. I like to repeat them about 5 or 6 times, but I have to drill this one in particular into your thick skulls, okay? And it's fine to occasionally compliment a woman. For example, you look nice tonight, honey. Great dress. Or those are cute shoes. Where'd you get them? Okay, I said occasionally. But if you start showering her with compliments, especially ones that she does not truly deserve, such as her body or her facial beauty, then listen. It'll go to her head. You're setting yourself up for a major fall. This makes you appear like a clown. And when she senses that you are continually giving her exaggerated value or respect, as a clown would, then she will think of herself as some living goddess or queen. As before, this not only degrades your confidence and manliness, but also gives her the upper hand in the relationship. But when you stay a little cold-hearted, she'll get curious about why you are not giving her all this attention and validation that she's used to. This adds value to you, and the tables eventually are turned. By doing this, you bring her back to reality, which is, no matter what she's been told by other guys, she's not that hot, she's not that beautiful, and she is not a damn queen. Always remember, if you must, just simply walk away from that damn queen that thinks she is so hot. Let her fool another guy. Let her manipulate another victim. But don't allow that victim to be you anymore. If you know anything about practicing the law of attraction, you'll understand that as you make positive changes about who you are, let's call that your character, and the crowd that you hang around with in your life, your friends, for example, when you make those positive changes in those people that are around you, then the universe will mysteriously arrange the right meetings for you, and there will eventually be an attractive beauty that will start moving and breathing in your direction, one that is not a manipulator and someone you can trust. In essence, the divine universe will begin molding your circumstances and the events in your life, shifting the winds of love in your favor and changing the elements of your existence so that you will meet up with destiny and see your attractive life partner soon. In fact, I declare that if you follow my advice here today, your dream girl will unexpectedly show up soon with a perfectly matching personality with yours and an attractiveness that goes beyond words. Thank you